that shift in culture started to change the mindset of all of us as individual team members to say, my high performance small unit, this team is critical when it comes to execution, but I also need to look outside of that box and start to establish similar sort of trust-based relationships with as many other parts of the organization as I can, so that we can live in those two worlds. I know when to be bureaucratic and structured in my information and decision making, and I know where and to whom to pass information quickly when I see an opportunity for another team to have a success that I can't address in the moment, or there's information that they need to know to de-risk a decision they may be facing. And those sorts of non-standard pushes of information, or the ability to receive information from others that aren't in your immediate world, have to be based on similar dynamics in a high-performance team. I have to know that person, I have to trust them, and that's a cultural shift for many organizations where a traditional sort of bureaucracy encourages many of us to live in this sort of siloed mentality. All of my trust-based relationships will be right here, where we operate in this network fashion, and my relationship with this team over here, they have the same dynamic internally, but our way of connecting is very traditional. I will go up through and across the leadership, and so I don't have to develop a trust bond or relationship bond across these different verticals, right? So very normal inside of so many large organizations that we've all seen before. And so these are the big areas that we had to address. And so what do they look like in practice? On the strategic front, and this is true in many organizations, right? There was this overarching goal or North Star mentality that you could put on a poster and hang in the hallway or something around, big buckets like win or success or whatever the buzzwords you might use in your organization. We can all fall prey to this. Of course, our goal is to be the best in market, or to be, the numbers are going to be successful along these, and that's kind of how we're going to focus our strategy. And what our leadership recognized, that's not going to get us there, right? So in a siloed, sort of separate organization, and we were guilty of this in these units, I can be down here on the ground and say, okay, this is, our intent is to be successful and win. Therefore, I am going to interpret that strategy inside of my box. And winning for my team looks like X. I'm going to go out, I'm going to do a thing, I'm going to get this information, I'm going to wait for a decision to come down from one layer of the organization or another, and I'm going to fight to get that next set of authorities or guidance or resources, whatever it is, so that I can go do another thing, right? So there's a clear incentive for me to pass this piece of information or this piece of information up and through to get a decision that drives my next action. There's not a clear incentive for me to take, that other piece of insight and pass it over to this team here, because that would help them win, but not me win, right? And when we weren't seeing this environment over here through a networked lens, I personally didn't see the risk of not connecting the dots on how I need to pass information up and across and be able to separate those two sets of insights quickly, right? So and the leadership recognized when we talk about win in this big sort of overarching way, in some ways we may be driving the natural separation that exists between verticals in any bureaucracy. So how do we start to solve for that was the question. And so the discussion about strategy started to change, and the language shifted.